X. I don't even know how to tell this without it reading like fiction. I know there's a lot of lit insider here and all of that stupid shit, but seriously, I have kept this inside for a long time. I figured this was the best place for it. Either I'm not believed and no one cares, or even if you do, it will just be played off as classic schizos and nothing will come of it. With that out of the way, I will tell you straight up. I am a government employee, not former. I still work at the same place. I'm gonna be vague about my role, but honestly, even if they find out who I am, it changes nothing. It changes nothing for me or for you. In my department, when I was first hired, there was a story that used to go around the office. Just one of those lame campfire tales. The, ooh, so spooky kind. I figured it was just an initiation thing to freak out newbies. It was a story about what happens when you reach a higher clearance level. The exact level is always vague and changes every time. Everything else about the tale stays the same though. You get pulled into a meeting, and they show you a presentation. They pull out some dinky laptop, give a bit of an introduction, and then show you a video that contains all the world's secrets. The exact contents vary from alien races that we're in contact with, to things like UFOs in the ocean and other black projects. I was obviously very low level when I joined, but after almost 20 years in the service, I eventually did reach the required clearance level. Like I said, I will be keeping my exact role quite vague, but it does not involve anything to do with black projects or insane government secrets, just boring things to do with file management, man management, and bureaucracy. Overall, a pretty inconsequential role in the grand scheme of things, but one that someone has to do. Over the years, we have had many top secret meetings happening in the building, but usually about mundane matters, or so I was led to believe. I usually had a very busy schedule and had to focus hard to get my work done. Insert joke about lazy government workers not doing any real work here. This meant that I really did not have the time to even wonder what anyone else was doing. All I will say is that I am based in New York. Even with things like this urban legend, I just dismissed it and went about my day. I'm kind of not a shy guy, but I like to keep to myself and just get shit done. The type to leave everything at work, not really interact with my coworkers, and go straight home on time and relax. I did not want any drama, and I am a strict rule follower. I just don't have the energy it takes to do anything more. One night, I was working overtime. I avoided it as long as I could, but I had an avalanche of work, and I basically got stuck. It must have been maybe 10 p.m. There were a lot of people working late. Not unusual, it was basically crunch time. I get a call at my desk, basically just, hey, yeah, we know you're busy, everyone is, but we've got an important meeting that basically only happens once a year. Get up here now. Pretty annoying, all things considered. I was not prepared for the meeting I was about to have. I take the elevator and went up to the 10th floor. The building I work in is absolutely massive. Lots of people, always a buzz. The corridors here were empty. The only signs of activity were coming from the meeting room. This was not a regular meeting room. It was more like an assembly hall you would see at a school. This was the first time I had ever seen it. I had never had any reason to be up here. There is a guy at the door I don't recognize, and he beckons me over. Two of them actually. Suited up, dark shades, earpieces on. I mean, we have security in the building for sure, but not up here. They tell me, hey, the meeting is about to start, you need to hurry up. Really commanding. Like, come on man, I don't even know you. If I was another guy, I probably would have cussed them out, asking them who they were to talk to me like that. But I just went straight in. Also, very weirdly, they made me put my phone in like a security box before I went in. No recording, meeting is top secret, yada yada. Gave me a pat down too. Fucking weirdos. There were hundreds of people in here, all chatting amongst themselves. Lots of people very curious as to what was happening. There was water and food available for everyone, but I did not feel all that hungry. I just wanted it to be over so I could finish up and go home. Man in a brown suit walks toward the front of the room and begins to speak. There is a projector screen set up behind him with a laptop. He starts with an intro speech about how once the meeting starts, we cannot leave until it's over, no matter what. That the security outside will ensure that nothing leaks outside this room. My heart was actually beating quite fast at this point. This did not seem like some boring seminar. Definitely did not seem like we were going to be told we were getting bonuses for the year either. There were now 2 other security guards inside this room too, standing behind the guy speaking and in the corners. Same attire as the guys outside. He goes off on a long spiel about classified emails we had to read through and NDA forms we had to sign. I'll admit, I kinda just marked the email as read because I did not have time and was gonna get to it later. The NDA, I just thought was related to my current project. Whoops. He tells us we're welcome to grab more water or something to eat while the presentation is ongoing, but that we must pay full attention. Bathroom breaks are basically only allowed if it is urgent, and we will be escorted out by a guard. And of course, he rattles on about the NDAs and speaking to people who do not have clearance about the presentation. He dims the lights and tells us to prepare for what we are about to say and to let it all digest before reacting. You might be angry, you might feel scared, but please do not act irrationally. We have security here for the safety of everyone, including yourself. The projector starts to play a video. It had lots of intros and logos about how the video was classified and penalty of death stuff. CIA logos, government logos, lots of the ones you would expect. The final logo is one I do not recognize. It's a globe with 7 stars around it. The stars are gold, but the globe is largely in red with hints of blue. There is a subtitle underneath after a second. Earth Coalition Authority. That's definitely a new one. The video starts and you immediately see a podium. Looks like it's in a basement of some kind. Open and spacious, but quite dark, and looks really eerie. The person on the podium is Richard Nixon. What the fuck? It's like Congress if it were held in an underground military bunker. Lots of seats, huge security detail. Nixon looks nervous as fuck. Like, it is palpable. The whole room is like deathly silent. The camera is a close-up of him for about a minute straight, then zooms out slightly and pans across the room. It's not just him and his security up there. There are 3, I don't even know, things, 7 feet tall and hunched over. Their limbs are elongated and sinewy. They're blue in color, like a deep washed out blue. Their heads are like stretched backwards slightly, like they have something protruding out of the back of their skulls, but that's just their actual skull. Their eyes are basically just voids in the skin. No noses. They are just standing, leering, towering over the president and staring out at the crowd, filled with politicians from the time period and other higher-ups. Not strictly American politicians either. The Prime Minister of Canada, of the UK, representatives from Germany, France, Italy. I'm sure there were more. Not sure exactly what year this is. Nixon begins speaking. His voice is really shaky, but like he's trying to conceal it. Members of the Earth Coalition Authority, I thank you for gathering here today. As you can see, we have benevolent visitors here today who have graciously accepted this meeting. I know this may seem quite daunting at this current time, but I assure you, this is the right choice. I know you may think the recent assassination to be drastic action, but allowing dissent from the most powerful country on our planet would lead to unfavorable consequences for all of us. Holy shit, what the fuck is he talking about? This decision has not been an easy one, but we have fortunately reached a majority vote. We are immensely grateful to our esteemed visitors who gave us the opportunity to come to this decision. I suddenly felt very sick. this had to be a joke. I did not have time for something as stupid as this. Another worker stood up out of his seat and loudly exclaimed that he had better things to do and walked to the exit. The two security guys at the door grabbed him and he shouted at them and attempted to pry their hands off him. They asked him politely to sit back in his seat, but he was having none of it. They punched him and told him he could either sit down and finish or he would be dealt with. The video did not stop for the interruption. I want to thank all the nations of the world for making the right choice. For those who voted against this, we are still grateful for accepting the decision of the majority. I will outline this decision, and then we will have a word from our guests. This is a pivotal moment in our history, and one I am sure we will look back on with gratitude. We were faced with two options, extinction or entering into this agreement, and I am sure you can say that this is preferable. I still had no idea what was going on. If this was actually real, then why are we being shown this? We do important work. We aren't nobodies, but even so, it felt like we were not people who should have been seeing this thing. I've worked with countless classified files and top secret information, but none of it compared to whatever this is. I am officially announcing that we have entered into the agreement proposed by our esteemed guests. They have volunteered the name Orloff for their species in our native English. In the proposed agreement, the Orloff will allow our species to survive and to continue to inhabit the earth and use it as we see fit, to grow, to populate, to invent, and to advance. In return for this, the Earth Coalition Authority, which is comprised of 127 sovereign nations, will adhere to the following laid out by the Orloff. I was still in complete shock at this point. I did not even know what to think. The Orloff retain the right to visit Earth whenever they so please. The Orloff have the right to consume humans on Earth at their own discretion, with the exception of key individuals needed to ensure the continuation of the agreement and the balance of power here on Earth. We have a duty to ensure that enough humans are prepared when required, the number of which will be requested before arrival. These humans can be taken from anywhere, so long as we maintain a cover story to not arouse suspicion of the population at large. This includes terror attacks, human trafficking rings, staged wars across Earth, disease outbreaks, the works of criminals and crime syndicates, and any other event deemed fit. We agree to maintain this secrecy and to ensure that history is written to conceal the work of any external forces. I wanted to run out of the room hearing all of this, but I knew I would just be punched for my efforts. It all felt so surreal, like a parody of real life. Our guests have graciously agreed to delay their next visit due to our willingness to accept the agreement they have put forth. The last time they visited, we failed to accept and honor the terms they provided, and so they took more than they intended. The next visit will take place in 50 to 55 years, followed by a visit around 100 years after, with subsequent visits to be agreed upon at a later date. We will now hear from our guests for a brief moment. One of those things walked over. It was so large, you could see it clearly from a camera placed at the back of the room. It did not speak for long. Its voice was higher pitched than I expected. It clearly only had a basic grasp on the English language. It introduced itself in the most basic way possible. Everything it said was incredibly blunt. Humans in room are safe. Rest of Earth is food. If we don't like who you give, we will take more. We want them alive, or the deal is no good. I think I shit my pants in fear. I felt my heart skip, and like an immense pressure was weighing down on it. Then the thing said that it was going to provide a demonstration, that it needed to set an example and give humanity a permanent reminder of the deal they agreed to. If you break it, this will be all of you. I watched as a door to the left of the podium opened up that the camera panned to. They brought out a man who was in shackles, wearing something covering his face so he couldn't bite. He was in a prison outfit. Nixon announced on the podium that the man was due to be given the death sentence a week prior, but that he was given an extension to be used today. He said that, considering the things he had done, they should not feel guilty. They put the man on his knees, facing the thing. I only caught a glimpse of his face, as he was now facing away from the camera, but I had never seen so much uncontrollable fear. He was crying when they walked him in, full on sobbing like he was a child. On his knees, he could not stop shaking. This was the worst part. I watched as the creature unhinged its entire jaw and put it around this man's head. The screaming and the writhing by not just him, but everyone in the room was horrible to watch. The man did not stop screaming in agony the entire time. The creature let out some sort of liquid all onto the man. It was corrosive. It dripped and caused slight burn marks on the prison outfit. The jaw unhinged more and more as the creature eventually had the entire person in its mouth, still screaming. Around 10 minutes in total of this, until the man could not be seen or heard anymore. Some people in the room threw up. The thing finished, and they all left. The meeting concluded quite solemnly. No one had any real words. Nixon gave a small outro speech, and so did other world leaders. It boiled down to just telling the room to not feel guilty, and that they had no choice to survive. They did not even look like they believed it themselves. The video ended. The speaker came back to the front and apologized that we had to watch the entire thing, but assured us it was required. I don't know if he was taking questions, but I put my hand up and asked why we were shown this. He told us it was part of the agreement, that members of a certain ranking and clearance would be required to watch this video to ensure that no mutiny would take place and that the agreement would be upheld, to ensure that we would obey. We were encouraged to get a glass of water and just sit for a minute, that it would be best for us to sit and process. They continued through some legal reminders about the consequences of sharing this information, but remarked that therapy would be available free of charge as long as this topic was not spoken about. The world did not feel real anymore. It didn't feel like I was really there. We were told we could take a day off in light of these events, but that we needed to come in the following day as appearances needed to be kept up. So, yeah, Hex. I guess that's about all I have to say. I know it reads like a creepypasta, and I don't blame you if you looked at this and scoffed, but this is my reality. Our reality. On my daughter's birthday, I got her a set of pastels and a notebook, among other various toys. She loved them, and immediately went about scribbling some drawings in the notepad. Like any proud parent, I put a few of them up on the refrigerator. She drew things like the family cat, our house, her grandmother, my mother-in-law, and the goldfish. His name is Fishy. However, she started to draw some rather grim-looking pictures, featuring a purple-clad witch or whatever she is. Apparently, her name is Barbara. Neither I nor my wife know anybody named Barbara. I asked who she was, and she told me that she is the lady that watches me sleep. I was dumbfounded. I asked her, "What do you mean, she watches you sleep?" She replied, "Yeah, she sits near my bed every night and watches me until I fall asleep." This got me very concerned, not only for the safety of my daughter, but for the well-being of my wife and of her child as well. I have a newborn. That same day, I went out to the local hardware store and purchased security camera equipment. I installed it all around the perimeter of the house and put 2 cameras facing my daughter's room window. At this point, I thought it might be one of the local vagrants peeping in at my daughter. Since I don't live in the best neighborhood, this was entirely a possibility. We do have a few crazies that stay under the bridge nearby and take drugs. The next day, I asked my daughter if she saw Barbara that night. When she told me that she did, I went right to the security camera and reviewed the footage. I saw nothing. I had to be sure, so I went over it again. This time slower. Still nothing. It was then that I decided to set up security cameras inside her room. I didn't tell her about it. Then I waited. The next morning, sure enough, she told me she had seen Barbara again. Upon reviewing the footage, I saw nothing unusual. You cannot imagine the feeling of relief that swept over my body. I felt as if everything was going to be alright, and I can put this whole Barbara mess out of my head. That was, until my daughter came up to me. What she told me shook me down to my very core. She told me that Barbara was angry at me. She said that Barbara does not like being watched. She said that Barbara is going to hurt me if I don't stop watching her. These are the pictures of Barbara. Be me. College student, home on break in Maryland. Have a couple of friends back home who are also into urbex. One of them tells me about Patapsco State Park. Apparently, there are some cool abandoned churches there, plus other interesting stuff. Make plans to go there. Plans fall through. Friend has to do something else that day. Fuck it. I'm not gonna be back home long enough for us to make another plan. I will just go by myself. It's a bit later in the day than I'd planned, on account of waiting for the friend. Get there at about 4 p.m. It's mid-November, so the sun is already getting kind of lowish. Park the car and start hiking. First church is easy enough to find. A big white Protestant structure right off the parking area. Spend a bit of time fucking around in there. Climb a bit into the steeple. Go down the trail and find more shit that my friend said was there. Check out an old water cistern. Check out an old car in a ditch. Check out another old car in a ditch. Yo, wait. There is even more up this way. Look up and see the other church. This one makes a much nicer ruin. 100% stone. Catholic construction. Name is St. Stanislaus Kostka Catholic Church. Pics are related. About 6 o'clock by now. Valley is not in direct sun anymore, but light is still pretty good. Go up to the church. Find one guy there with his GF smoking weed. Give them a bit of light-hearted shit about it while I check out the church. I'm an architecture guy, sue me. Eventually, guy and GF leave to go home or something. Notice a few stone blocks lying off in the woods a bit. Go to check those out, thinking they are from the walls or something. Realize they have writing on them. It's a cemetery. Start trying to read the graves. Hear a voice from off in the woods. Hey man, what'd you find there? Think it's weed guy again. Abandoned cemetery. Pretty cool, right? Look up. It's not weed guy. Some guy in black sweatpants, black hoodie, black baseball cap, and sunglasses, even though it's getting dark, is standing there. I looked at him, kind of raising an eyebrow. Yeah man, can I come see? I mean, it's not like I'm stopping you or anything. The guy laughs a bit, kind of strange. Can't describe it too well. Seemed a bit deep, and to go on too long. Yeah, but seriously, it's kind of hard to get in here. Can you help me a bit? The area by the cemetery is kind of thorny, I'll give him that. Yeah, Get up. Look over to him. There are no thorns barring him from getting in. He could literally just walk over to where I am. Step back a bit and keep staring at him, trying to figure out if I'm going to get knifed by a psycho. My friend is the one who always carries when we're urbexing. I'm never in MD long enough to make it worth getting the concealed carry permit. Guy thinks the hesitation is funny. Starts laughing again. What's the matter, man? Are you scared or something? Yes. No. He thinks this is even funnier. Come on, I'm not trying to hurt ya. Just say I can come in and we are good. He's been kind of shuffling his feet along a sort of invisible line this whole time. Follow the line with my eyes. It matches with the line between a few of the cemetery's corner fence posts that are still intact. Realize I may be in over my head here. Still, he can't enter. He grins and takes off his sunglasses. I said I'm not gonna hurt ya. I just want to get in there. Just say I can come in. It's dark enough by now that I figure it's a good time to turn on my cell phone flashlight. Plus, now that his face is unobstructed, I want to get a better view of it. His eyes are dark, like 100% black. In the strong light of the flashlight, I can see through him to the woods beyond. Are you a ghost? Kind of. Don't like the sound of that. Take a seat on the ground. Figure as long as he can't get in, I am safe right here. Guy no longer looks like he's thinking this is quite so funny. So you're not gonna let me in, I take it? Probably not. He crosses his arms and takes a step back from the cemetery border. Kinda shrugs. Oh well, it's not like you're the only one. Fades away right in front of my eyes as a strong wind picks up. Tree branch cracks and falls, maybe 20 feet away from the cemetery border. Not gonna fuck with that. Turn off phone light to save battery. Stay inside cemetery for another 2 hours. Finally head out at about 10:30. I have not heard anything in a while, and my battery is getting low. Be on DEFCON 1 all the way out of there, just in case I run into him again. Never do. Parents were kind of pissed I was out that late, but whatever. It was honestly a really strange encounter. I was pretty scared when I saw his eyes, but I think I managed to do the right thing to get out of the situation. Looking back on it, I believe that he was more interested in the cemetery than he was in me. But at that moment, I was thinking more that the cemetery was my only safe place at the moment, and that there was no telling what he could do if I let him in there. I also definitely believe that he basically allowed me to go, and that if he'd really wanted to, he could have waited around and really fucked my shit up when I finally left. It seems like that church probably gets at least a few people a week based on weak guy, so his interest in me was mostly as a tool to let him break through the protection of the cemetery. One tool can usually substitute for another, so I basically was just one failed attempt in a series until he hit a success. I kind of wish it was a cooler encounter, but not everyone hits the supernatural pay dirt. It was definitely scary as it was happening. As an aside, I just remembered that that's not the only encounter with a demon I think I've had. I swear, there is one trapped in a music box at the back of my dresser, but that's another story. I think reading about skinwalkers was my biggest mistake ever. It reminds me of something I never wanted to think about again. It gets more horrifying for me to know that other people experience something similar. Be a kid and play outside a lot with friends. Live in village next to forest. The nearest house to the forest wall belongs to a friendly old man. He gives us candy and treats us like his grandsons. As time goes on, he becomes weaker and has to use a cane to walk. One day, his attitude changes abruptly. Sits in his rocker on his porch, staring into the village. Does not recognize us anymore. Sometimes stands up to go inside. This goes on for a week. Parents tell us to leave him alone because he is facing death. We still ride our bikes past his house. One day, a kid notices that he does not use his cane to walk. His movements are very stiff though. Other kid moans that he does not get candy anymore and that we should observe him to check if he's eating them himself. Kid logic. Hide in a bush behind a window and peek inside. The old guy just stands up straight, something we thought he was not able to do, in the middle of his living room, and has an emotionless and blank expression on his face. I still remember his hands weirdly gesticulating with nobody. All of us get creeped out. We run back to our bikes. Hear door opening. Old guy comes out and opens his mouth, but no voice can be heard. Reasonable kid asks if he needs help. He doesn't reply, but gets on his knees and pulls sticks covered in candy cane paper out of his trousers. He's crazy, a friend says. We leave. Next day, the ambulance and police investigate the house. Apparently, the old man has been found dead in his bed. Overhear a conversation between paramedic and cop. Remember it just like yesterday. Unfortunately, he has been dead for over a week. Think it's strange since we saw the old man alive a day before. Village is shocked about the death, but everyone believes the paramedic made a mistake. Ride my bike days later, past Grandpa's house. See a human-like figure standing in the forest, watching the house. Go home and develop sleeping problems. I put it down as a weird childhood experience that could be explained with logic, but many things are characteristics of skinwalkers. Fang sacks,